Mayor, members of the council, and members of the audience, and to the community at large that may be watching on University Place television. My name is Steve Sugg. I'm the city manager, and I'm pleased to present this report, year-end review for 2012. 2012 was a year of major accomplishments, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but in each of the area. And I'm proud to report that we've had significant work done and progress made in University Place as University Place and the rest of the nation recovers from a terrible recession that was the worst since the Great Depression. But it appears that we're coming out of that. The economy is slowly improving. It's not there yet, but I'm hopeful and confident that we are going to continue to make progress as the economy improves. First of all, 2012 is 1 year in time for a city that is a little bit over 17 years in age. 1995, August 1995, the city incorporated, the community came together after many tries and finally did it. They voted for incorporation. They decided they wanted to control their own destiny. And so at that time, the city was about 85% built out. We had not quite 30,000 residents. We had a lot of hopes and dreams, and that were brought together in early 1996 with over 1,000 residents participating in creating a compelling vision for the future, a 20-year vision. The adopted vision statement embraces that the community values, the community's collective values and aspirations, and is the driving force behind the comprehensive plan that was subsequently developed by and adopted by the council. It was after many months of work by the Planning Commission. Council adopted its first comprehensive plan in 1998. Now this year, the city will be inviting the community to participate in a process to create a vision for the next 20 years. And the community will be hearing more about that. And the council is going to discuss that at its retreat this weekend. And I'm sure all of you out there that are listening will be hearing more about this process. So let me begin by looking back over the past 12 months. And again, this is 1 year in an unbroken chain that leads back to the vision. And I believe that all of us can be proud of what's been accomplished and in keeping to that vision. First of all, I want to talk about finance. Finance is key, even though it's the support department for all that we do. Without strong finances and without money, you can't build things, you can't operate departments, you can't hire staff, and you can't do the things that the community wants done in fulfilling that vision. Last year, the city ended the year in its strongest financial position in years. As we all know, in 2009, when the Great Recession hit in full force, the city had to cut 30% of its workforce and drop services back to core level. But during that entire time, from the recession up to the current time, the city has maintained stable finances. And last year, we ended with a general fund balance in excess of $1 million. Last fall, the city refinanced 2 bonds. One was a bond issue, a short-term bond issue taken out in 2007, interest only, $12.4 million, due in 2013. A second bond issue was one back in 2003 approximately that was taken out to fund the Sugg Park improvements. Well, early last year, it was about this time, we had a discussion with council about that issue, that 2007 issue that was coming due in 2013. And council was concerned about potential market conditions in 2013. Just didn't know, you couldn't look that far ahead. So they asked staff to look into refinancing the bonds early in 2012. Well, that ended up being a very wise set of recommendations. council made the right choice, decided in the fall of last year to refinance that $12.4 million bonds. We also refinanced the 2003 bonds because interest rates hit their most favorable point in years. And we were able to go to the market, sell those bonds in November, and realize a savings of $181,000 a year in interest. So that was a very key decision, and I appreciate council's efforts and your ability to see into the future. So later after the meeting, I would like to talk to you about investment advice, because that was pretty good advice last year. Secondly, it wasn't a small task, but it was a major achievement. Last year, the council adopted a 2-year balanced budget for 2013-2014. So we're now operating under the budget you adopted last fall. And it's a steady-as-you-go budget. It continues building on the momentum that has been built over the past 17 years. And we will be able to work with that budget and I think and move the city forward. And finally, it shouldn't go without saying that our finance department is one of the finest in Washington State. Last year, they received their 14th consecutive Certificate of Achievement for the comprehensive annual financial reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association. And this is with an extremely small staff, and I'll get to that later. We have an extremely lean staff citywide, but we have experienced, competent individuals who operate in each of those departments. That last slide just shows the general fund balance that was increased in 2012 and ended close to $1.5 million. Next, I want to talk about public safety, and you just heard from Chief Mike Blair. Chief came on board as the full-time chief. He was our interim chief for a while, but we were proud to have council select and endorse the selection which I made together with the sheriff, Pierce County Sheriff, in selecting Mike as the city's new police chief in 2012. Mike has built, very quickly, has built a great team. And you heard about that in his previous report. Council also was very proactive back in 2010 in making sure that even though police was cut like the rest of the city workforce during the recession, you were able to find additional money to add in a police detective, and that has been very productive for the city, for the community, and we appreciate those efforts. So what happened in 2012? Well, again, it's up on the screen, but the selection of Mike Blair as the new chief, his recruitment of a new police sergeant, Sergeant Carpenter, and then finally in fall of 2012, you gave the police a powerful new tool. Doesn't cost any additional money, but it is the stay out of areas of drug activity, the area of emphasis in the Orchard Corridor. Crime has been coming down as a result of the task force and the emphasis that the police have been making in those areas. And this is just another tool that you're giving the police to operate with. So I appreciate that tool that you gave us, and Mike does as well. You know, the citizens that come to University Place come here for the great schools. And those are folks that are willing to step up and get proactive and partner with on many different activities, including community-oriented policing. Believe it or not, we had our police chief speak and his force speak to 26 different community groups last year. Over 600 citizens participated in that, to become aware and to figure out how to help the police be proactive in making University Place, continue to make University Place a very safe community to live, and one of the best in Washington State. Parks and Recreation. The city has what I consider to be top quality recreation programs found anywhere in the state. This slide indicates how we're funding the Parks and Recreation program the budget that you adopted back in the fall. But it wasn't always a sure bet that this was actually, I was going to present to you a funding plan, because recreation was on the chopping block in 2009 when the Great Recession hit. It was the fall of 2009. Many of us were in this room when 200 coaches, volunteers, parents stepped up and said, we have to save that program. That recreation program is key to our youth, our seniors, our adults. So many people participate. Last year we had over 20,000 participants participating in over 1,000 recreation programs. And that gives you the sense of how massive this program is. And it's run by a 4-person recreation staff. So volunteers stepped forward, and a particular recognition and acknowledgement needs to be made towards the group called University Place Community Supported Parks and Recreation, a 501c3, stepped forward and held fundraisers, raised significant amounts of money to help with saving recreation. And I'm pleased to report that Council last fall adopted a budget that now has been able to fully fund our recreation programs, so that University Place Community Supported Parks and Recreation, 501c3, which is still very operational, and they're holding more fundraisers kicking off next month, and then through subsequent months, will be able to focus their efforts on providing scholarship monies to those that are need-based. So I'm extremely pleased with what our recreation staff does, and as well as the volunteers that participate. We've had over 6,000 volunteer hours. Volunteer coaches alone provided over 3,000 volunteer hours in support of these programs. So it's a total community-wide effort. That just gives you a little bit of, this slide gives you a little bit of a sense of the types of programs we offer, and it's very popular, and you know, recreation is here to stay. So moving on to engineering. 17 years ago, the city did not have any curbs, gutters, bike lanes, street lights, street trees. It had a Bridgeport Way, which is 5 lanes. It had a center suicide lane, often called because it's dangerous to be out there. And this one road itself had 300 crashes in a period of 3 years. Just one of many streets that needed work. Well, I'm pleased to report that in the 17 years since the vision was adopted, all arterial streets are lit, and we have many miles of arterial streets are tree-lined, and in addition, we have over 25 miles of sidewalks and bike lanes. But we're not done. We're a little over half done with the network. The engineering department secured $7.4 million for 8 new projects to continue building on that network, to incrementally move towards the ultimate vision of getting all arterial streets completed with curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and bike lanes. It's a long road, but you know, this is significant progress in an era of limited funding, and so they were very successful in securing grants. Just a quick note, Bridgeport 3B is from 54th to Chambers Lane. Bridgeport 5 is from 19th to 27th. At the most difficult section of Bridgeport. Mildred, the council, I think was all in the council, all of you were in the room with the Faircrest City Council, and came together to partner and come to an agreement that we were both cities were going to partner to secure a grant. And guess what? The grant came through. $1.5 million of federal funding was secured, and that project's going to move forward. That's Mildred from Regents to 19th, a huge, huge improvement that's needed that will benefit both cities in a highly developed commercial corridor with lots of pedestrians linking, which links up to Tacoma Community College to the north. Sugg and 56, I want to mention that project. That's another partnership. We've partnered with the City of Tacoma to go after some grants, and we were successful last year. Jack Eklund, our city engineer, led that effort, and we secured close to $800,000 to help redesign that corridor all the way from I-5 to Chambers Bay. This is the major gateway access to Chambers Bay, which is home of the 2015 US Open, which is just a little over 2.5 years away. So that is a significant effort. We didn't think we were going to get there, but you never get there unless you try. And we all are going to see the fruits of that efforts, and hopefully we leverage that to secure construction funding. This is just preliminary engineering, design, other words, design work. 19th Street is an interesting project. Community development block grant was secured, and it was not that was unknown to us until it was a surprise, and we were fortunate to secure that. Very badly needed on the south side of 19th between Bridgeport and Mildred. That'll allow those pedestrians to move safely along that street. So I just wanted to highlight this because this is, again, goes back to this unbroken chain to the vision of curbs, gutters, sidewalks, bike lanes on all arterial streets in the city. We keep moving the ball down the field and moving towards completion. This is a map that goes along with those projects, and we're going to be, Jack will hopefully be bringing several of these forward for a bid award for you to award. And again, some of these will take a couple of years to design and build, and some still need construction funding. Now, moving on to economic development. You know, this is a good transition between engineering and economic development because the departments overlap. You know, each department, we don't work in the isolated silos. I've got folks in engineering that work on economic development. I got economic development folks working in engineering. I've got folks in planning working in economic development and vice versa. Economic development, has started a long time ago. In fact, shortly after cityhood. You could say the first economic development project that was done was the rebuilding of Bridgeport Way to make it safer, better, more aesthetically pleasing, and a community gateway in the spine between I-5 and State Route 16. What we didn't know was that 6 years later, after it was built, after we secured grants for that and built it, that the council was going to adopt a town center plan. But that was also in the vision. The vision called for a walkable town center. The 2002 town center adopted plan led to construction of supporting infrastructure starting in 2006. And then in 2008, 2009, the big recession hit. Council changed the strategy rather than going for a big critical mass developer to come in and do it all, pursue the town center vision on an incremental basis, but keep moving forward and complete the infrastructure. The council decided not to interrupt the momentum. That ended up being the wisest choice because it was validated last year when SCB Incorporated decided to pull the trigger and start construction on a $12.5 million 5-story mixed-use building with 100 residential units, over 12,000 square foot of retail on top of Lot 8. The city sold Lot 8 air rights because it was ready. It was ready to accept private sector development. And so the decision back in 2009 to continue making progress so that we would be ready when the economy turned was the right decision and proved correct. Now, who knows what the future will hold, but I'm bullish on the future, and I'm optimistic that progress will continue to be made, and as solid deals are developed, our Chief Town Center Negotiator, Steve Victor, who's also our city attorney, will bring those forward to you for consideration. A little bit more about, couple key things that the council did last year was approve the Regional Growth Center designation and help staff and your fellow colleagues in other cities ratify this growth center. What Regional Growth Center is, it says that we're going to concentrate growth along our commercial corridors, and in return, we're going to be made eligible for federal funds and state funds that we otherwise wouldn't be able to secure. And so you have designated a regional growth center along Bridgeport and 27th, leading up to Mildred, which will allow us to compete for those funds on a level playing field with much larger organizations who already have that regional growth center status. The next topic I want to mention is our U.S. Open Task Force. And and it's no secret that in 2015, June of 2015, the world's premier golf tournament, besides the British Open, U.S. Open, will be coming to University Place. This is a significant event, a worldwide event. We're going to be receiving the attention of the world, and the council recognized this, and in 2012 formed a U.S. Open Task Force that is chaired by Councilmember Chris Nye and Councilmember Ken Keel, and with Councilmember Javier Figueroa as a third member. The task force's mission is to make the 2015 U.S. Open a pleasant and rewarding experience for UP citizens, for USGA officials, for players, and for golfing fans. And they will be doing various research and studies and learning and coordinating with local governments and business associations to increase public awareness about this event, as well as look for economic development opportunities for University Place. So this is an exciting event. Everything's just getting started in terms of the planning effort. USGA official that will be running that tournament is moved into the area, and meetings are being set up. So we're excited about that. This is a significant opportunity for University Place to show to the world this great community. Okay, then just one note, not a small achievement. It was the Economic Development Strategic Action Plan for the next 5 years was approved by Council last year after many months and months of study, and this will guide the Economic Development Commission in their efforts, as well as the staff, and that is a significant document. It's online for those that want to read it. And there is a little bit about our economic development programs. Quickly, Partner Up is last year in 2012, we had 10 business-to-business events. It rotates among businesses in the evenings. It's a social get-together. Many of you council members have been able to attend those, one or more of those events, and it's a great time, and we're continuing that as well this year. The Business Directory, it's in its 8th edition, and it goes to all the businesses in University Place. Last year, we mailed them to 17,000 addresses. Talking Up is an electronic newsletter, and we published it 8 times last year, and it provides businesses with local and business-related issues and news. Business is UP, and that program is a UP TV program. It was started new, and we had our fall program last year. If you got to check it out, it was included the developers of the 5-story Clearview mixed-use building in Town Center, Steve and Kevin Burke. And then the Visitor's Guide is a guide to local restaurants, shops, shopping, and other establishments, and it's handed out to visiting teams and athletes who come so that they can visit local businesses. LinkedIn is a private social networking group that we helped facilitate, and their meetings so they can bring local interested businesses together on a social networking site. Development services is starting to see a turnaround. You know, the economy is often gauged by what happens at the permit desk, and we're starting to see more and more activity. It's not as much, it's not like it was in 2006, but it's a whole lot better than it was in 2009, 2010. Last year, in 2012, we issued more than 700 building permits, and we conducted nearly 3,000 building inspections. And here's a list of the permits. I won't go through them all, but it just indicates that there is a fair amount of activity. Among those, the most significant major project to come along in years has the wastewater treatment plant expansion. The county-owned plant is expanding to the tune of it's $350 million, 3-year project. It resulted in a permit fee being paid to the city in the amount of $2.25 million, which was received last fall, which was a huge infusion to the city, and that will be used to fund those services to provide the necessary inspections and reviews as that project moves forward. And that's just a list of the projects that were previously mentioned. And I must say, in addition to issuing permits, the development services also issues special events permits and the like, and is working on an urban trail expansion down on Chambers Bay. And there's a meeting at the end of the month at the Environmental Services Building, and that meeting is going to be, I'm not quite sure of the date, so I won't quote it, but it's on our website. And that meeting is the kickoff for this trail, and is to get public input on the trail development down in Chambers Bay and Chambers Creek. Moving on to Public Works. Last year this time, at the end of January of 2012, we had a 4-day storm with every kind of weather imaginable thrown at us. We had ice, we had snow, we had wind, we had rain. During that time, we had our crew 14 hours off, 14 hours on, 10 hours off for 10 days or for 4 days straight, and that was just during the storm, not including the follow-up. Massive amounts of chemical de-icer we had to use, as well as 217 tons of sand salt mix. Those are always interesting figures, and all that has to be swept up after it gets put down. Knock on wood, all we're getting is fog and cold, but dry out there. So we all arrived on fairly dry roads tonight, and we hope that we arrive home safely on dry roads as well. A key project, last year, the Public Works Department was called upon to help make sure that the University Place Festival could operate and in the way they wanted, and all the things that they wanted to do for that festival. And one of the things that you need at a festival is water. The Public Works Department mobilized their backhoe and their crew and installed 600 feet of water line and saved more than $9,000 using city staff. It's just an example of they're saving money every day doing things that would normally be done by others. They figured out a way to do those things in-house. The other thing is the last year with the Clearview mixed-use building in Town Center, a huge infusion of park impact fees was seen for the very first time in years in the Parks CIP. That's going to allow a restroom facility to be built at Sugg Park, something that's been desired for as long as I can remember, since the original planning of Sugg Park. We're not done. I mean, there's more things that need to be done at Sugg Park. I mean, there's big plans if you go back to the vision. They talk about a community center and some other things. And so that may be part of the discussion of the vision process we go through, but at least we're incrementally moving towards that vision. Again, go back to the vision and you start to see that all these things start to make sense. I always like to show this slide. Gary Cooper, our Parks and Public Works Director, and his crew do, with a small staff, an amazing amount of amazing operation to maintain and operate this huge network of facilities we have. You know, we didn't have any turf and landscaping when we incorporated in 1995. We now have 1.1 million square feet of turf and landscaping. Not because we just like to put down turf and landscaping, but because this is what a quality community has. They have these things. You build parks, you build ball fields, you put tree-lined streets in, and for that matter, over 2,700 street trees have been installed. We have 4,000 storm drainage structures. So when you see these guys, and there's one of them out there showing how a storm drainage structure gets pumped out using a Vector truck. Heavy equipment is needed to maintain those. We have 18 park properties. When we incorporated, actually we have more park properties than that. We have 20, but 18 park properties that have to be maintained on a regular basis. We had none when we incorporated. So that gives you a sense of where we've come. Street signs. Occasionally we get some of these stolen and vandalized. But as you can see, over 3,000 street signs have to be maintained, checked, inventoried. These are important. These tell people when to stop, when to go, when to yield. I mean, street signs communicate signage and information. And then finally, we have 31 drainage ponds that hold filter water before it gets discharged and released through creeks to the Puget Sound to help settle out sediment and make the water more pure. This last slide is not in your, it was added late in the program, but I wanted to, getting back to lean staff. When we developed the city and when I came here, it was a lean staff and it's continued to be lean. Even though we've grown, the scope of services that we provide has grown as well. And we have maintained that very leanness, and I think it's been an asset for us because we have focused on retaining and growing a very experienced and competent staff capable of dealing with the biggest challenges that you'll ever find in municipal government. And I'm pleased to report that this graph was not produced by University Place. It was produced by another city doing their own research, and it shows University Place at the bottom, but with the least number. But that's a good thing, and because we think that shows that our effectiveness and our efficiencies of getting things done, getting more bang for the buck for the tax dollar. But at the end of the day, are we doing the things necessary to achieve the vision that the community set out and the council adopted back in 1996? And I'm pleased to report that 2012 was another year in accomplishing and moving us closer to that ultimate vision. So with that, let me close by saying that the progress over the last 17 years shows how successful we can be when we come together as one community to achieve a vision. As we head into the next visioning process, it is exciting to think of what we may be able to achieve together over the next 17 years and beyond. So that's the end of my report, Council.